Welcome to my budget deck channel where I try to make decks as cheap and playable as possible. So if this is something you'd be interested in, then why not subscribe? Today with, well, one of the more competitive decks, I want to say at the moment, but the new pack has possibly shaken up the meta again already. So I'm not actually sure if it is or if it isn't, but this is a cheap take on the whole Runick Sprite kind of deck. And I feel like it still is as powerful in a sense as the full non-budget variant, but it isn't as consistent and it isn't as grindy, which can be a bit problematic if you're playing a Runick deck, who would have thought, but we'll try our best still and talk about what cards I'm running, and we'll start off with the ratios. Wind-Up Kitten, a very nice card, especially in a grind game, and you can revive this with Elf a lot of the time. So this card is quite nice as a normal summon, go in second. It's nice to revive off of Elf. It's sometimes go in second, nice to be summoned off of Gigantic Spright, although you kind of don't really want to be doing this, but it still works. So there's lots of things that you can actually achieve with this one. Next up, double Caligo Claw Crow mainly helps you going into Djinn Buster with all of your other dark Spright monsters. That card can be quite nice. Also, you can summon it from your hand if you have a dark monster on board, which you will mainly always have with Gigantic Spright. It's just an extender to your whole level 2 engine, and yeah, it's not too bad. You can substitute with any other good ones. There's like plenty level 2 things that I think the one that draws you to, for example, when it's special summon and so on and so on and so on, but they're all not super rare, so I feel like this one does the most because it can help protect from hand traps with Djinn Buster. So if you start with this and one of those two, this is usually quite a good thing anyway, plus you can always normal summon it, so there's that. Capshell, a very nice card to keep draws up, which is very important if you play Runick, so this card definitely has a space in this specific variant. Spright Blue at 1, because ultra rare, usually you want to play it at 3, but this one is only a 1-off, but it's not too bad because any 2 level 2s gets you into this one, and then this one gets you into Gigantic Spright basically, so then into this, and this one searches you either if you want a specific negate, or if you want Jet to search either Smashers or Starter, or technically Gamma Burst. I did put it in this time because I felt like I kind of did need it sometimes to finish games, especially with the whole Runick pack. You want to really push for game in one turn, and that can help a bit more with it. We do still run triple Spright. Technically you can cut down 1 if you want to keep it as cheap as possible, but this card is generally like just a very good card to draw because you do run so many Spright spell traps as well. We do run double Smashers because this card with I figured out, for myself at least, that I do really like to run double Smashers because drawing into it isn't actually too terrible, especially because you run so many Spright cards, so you can always get the effect off, especially if you're going second. This card does actually a lot, and going second, these kind of decks are a bit weaker because they're lacking hand traps, as you might have seen. Hand traps good, so this one can be a bit problematic. Still one Pixies. It doesn't really come up all that much, but still a monster you can special summon from hand. It's a dark monster, so it works with Claw, Crow, the thing, and then it does work for number 65. So we've got this. We have triple Spright Red for monster negates, hand trap stopper can be very important, triple Carrot for spell card negates, especially if you're going first. Sometimes it's very annoying if your opponent then lightning storms you, Ragekis you, whatnots. There's so many powerful spell traps that you do not really have an answer to, so I like triple Carrot, but obviously the more of this you play, the less of these you have to be playing, and same goes for Starter, so there's always that. One Ash Blossom because you basically get it for free, and at this point in most decks it's just like an inclusion because I assume most people will have opened that Master Pack bundle, so I don't really count it towards the actual ultra rare count, but we keep it at 1 because that's the only one where that would count. One Runick Fountain, you technically want to run at least 2, but budget wise we do have issues with this one. We run triple Forbidden Chalice, could go in first, could go in second, budget-wise. Double Runick Tip, also you do want to be running 3, but you do get away with running 2. Your Runick ratios could be like 1 higher, so if you want to be cutting like one of this maybe, and then put another Runick card in, you can always like adjust. You could technically cut one Gamma Burst, you could technically cut one of the Smashers, and just play one more Runick card, so there's always that. But 2 is enough if you only manage to get 2, or if this card at one point gets like semi-limited. Konami likes doing these kind of things. Yeah, had a massive coughing fit there. Double Runick Flashing Fire, run 3 if you have it. That's just for budget reasons, we only do run 2, and in case this also might get semi-limited in the future, who knows. Runick Destruction, very, very good against certain decks, and the Banish 4 is quite strong. Freezing Curses can be very effective, and 3 Banish is also not too bad. Runick Slumber, mainly just a way to get off the Runick draw also during your turn, so I think this is mainly why this got semi-limited, I feel, because this is one of the only cards you can actually use during your turn, and you don't need your opponent to actually do stuff. And also, it is somewhat stally, I guess. Runick Smiting Storm, yeah, very interesting card. It does sometimes help. The ratios with like Smiting Storm and Dispelling, you have to figure out yourself, whatever you feel is more comfortable. I kind of like the 2/2. Sometimes this effect is easier to pull off at least, but this effect is obviously better. So at your discretion, I kind of like Smiting Storm because you can decide how many cards you want to banish. So the other stuff is still live if your opponent is kind of low on cards, I'd say. Only 1 starter, but in this variant, 1 starter is actually fine. Obviously, if you have to, run 2, because starter is a massive card, but keeping it as cheap as possible and being able to search it off of Jet, which you can search off of Spright, which you can search off of Blue, which you get the gist of it. This card can be quite nice, and also with running these ratios, this card can doesn't always have to be a play starter. It can always, since it's a quick spell, be set and summon one of these negates out during opponent's turn. So there's that. It's not very reactive because you you can't chain it to the negate, because that's not how it works. Not like Magic where there's like a stack, then you get the monster on board and then the stack resolves. So you know, if you play Yu-Gi-Oh for more than like a few days, you know what I'm talking about. So you have to like do it kind of preemptively if you know what your opponent is playing and what kind of negate you might be missing. Gamma Burst to finish games or get over pesky stuff that your opponent is playing. Smashers, just very, very good removal, although it does cost you some resources, so can be problematic. Lost Wind in the grind game, and you do have a grind game going on because this is a permanent negate, and sometimes 2 permanent extra deck monster negates and half attacks are what you need. Infinite Impermanence, very, very good card, same as Ash Blossom. We run 1 Hugin. You technically do want to run 2, especially if you do run 2 Runick Fountains and stuff. You obviously want to max out on this a little bit. You do want to play Munin as well, but ultra rare again for some reason. This card could really have been rare in my opinion, but it is what it is. So yes, one of this one, which is mainly because we don't run 2, so you kind of need a way to get the card back into from your graveyard back into your hand, because otherwise you don't really have any real way of doing it. It's a bit annoying. You can cut this card if you want to, up to you in the end. It's another super rare that you might not want to be running. It can be quite good as a stall card. The only problem is it is level 4, so you technically, if you want to then go into your Spright combos, because these have to go into the extra monster zone, you have to link it off for Geonator Transverser, and then you can use this card to make Gigantic Spright and so on and so on. It works, but sometimes it might be a bit annoying. We have Herald of Pure Light, which is nice. It would be nicer if it didn't just target monster in your graveyard, but any card, but then it might be a lot stronger than it should be. Not sure if it would make much of a difference, but I could see it, especially with Spright being around, making a bit of a difference if you can actually recycle spell traps. But you can't. This is mainly just in here to tuck Gigantic Spright or a Spright Elf back into your extra deck, because, you know, this is kind of what we have to do in a budget variant. Good hand trap negate, good for OTKing or getting over opponent's monsters. That's why I run 2, but you can obviously tweak the ratios and put some good cards in here. Double Crumble Logos, mainly if you play against other cards that have like lots of well, floodgates or even runic stuff, then you can negate their things on board, which can be nice. 1 Phantom Light because it reduces attack points as well. It doesn't matter, you can't use the quick effect, still good in the grind game. 1 Mannequin Cat can come up, especially in the mirror match. We have 1 Gigantic Spright, obviously. Budget hero, Geonator Transverser, one of my favorite Link 2s, I would say. Spright Elf, very, very important. Spright Elf can actually do quite a few interesting things. If your Hugin actually lands in the graveyard, then you can special summon your Hugin back, and then if your Hugin is actually destroyed, you can return this card to the extra deck again, which would matter if you if this effect, for example, gets negated, and then you want to summon it again at one point, but you'd obviously have to clear your extra monster zone to actually get the search effect off, so it is a bit problematic, but just saying, it is a way that works. And since you can use this card as an exile material for Gigantic Spright, it does work because that would clear your extra monster zone. So this is something to keep in mind. It's the small combos that matter from time to time, especially if you're down on the ratios. So there's some things you have to be doing sometimes and ran this card into your opponent, so it goes back to the extra deck and so on and so on and so on. And also it just can be protection basically, so that's also not too bad. Decode Talker, Budget Hero, and Raster Liger. Could be any Access Code Talker, could be any other good card, at your own discretion. Hope you enjoyed the deck profile. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, but most importantly, I hope you have a nice day.